The CEO who threw a 2M birthday party. In the summer of 2002, while Enron dominated headlines and corporate America reeled from accounting scandals, another executive was about to become the poster child for outrageous corporate excess. Dennis Kozlowski, the CEO of Tyco International, had just thrown what would become the most infamous birthday party in corporate history. The celebration for his wife Karen's 40th birthday on the Italian island of Sardinia cost $2 million, and here's the kicker: half of it was paid for with company money. The party featured Roman gladiators, a toga-clad Jimmy Buffett performing, and yes, a vodka-dispensing ice sculpture shaped like Michelangelo's David that poured premium liquor from its most intimate anatomical feature. This wasn't just corporate extravagance, this was corporate theft disguised as celebration, and it would help bring down one of America's most powerful CEOs. Dennis Kozlowski wasn't born into wealth. He clawed his way to the top of corporate America through sheer determination and an appetite for aggressive deal-making. Born in Newark, New Jersey in 1946, Kozlowski graduated from Seton Hall University with an accounting degree and joined Tyco International in 1975 as an auditor when the company was a small New Hampshire-based manufacturer of laboratory equipment. Through a series of strategic acquisitions and ruthless cost-cutting, Kozlowski transformed Tyco into a massive conglomerate spanning security systems, healthcare products, electronics, and industrial components. By 2001, Tyco's revenues had exploded from $500 million when Kozlowski took over as CEO in 1992 to over $36 billion, making it one of the largest companies in America. Wall Street loved Kozlowski's aggressive acquisition strategy, dubbing him a deal junkie who could spot undervalued companies and strip out costs with surgical precision. Fortune magazine named him one of America's most successful CEOs, and his compensation package reflected his status, with total annual compensation reaching $100 million in some years. But success bred excess, and excess bred entitlement, and that entitlement would ultimately prove to be Kozlowski's undoing. The infamous birthday party took place in June 2001 at the Villa Simbrone, a luxurious hotel perched on cliffs overlooking the Mediterranean Sea in Ravello, on Italy's Amalfi Coast, not Sardinia, as initially reported. The guest list read like a who's who of corporate America and high society, with 75 carefully selected attendees including Tyco board members, business partners, and wealthy socialites. The theme was Roman Empire meets modern decadence, with guests encouraged to wear togas and sandals as they were entertained by actors dressed as Roman centurions and gladiators who performed elaborate fight scenes throughout the evening. Jimmy Buffett, the legendary musician behind Margaritaville, was flown in to perform a private concert, reportedly earning $250,000 for his appearance, though he gamely donned a toga for the occasion. The centerpiece of the evening was an elaborate dinner featuring rare wines, including a 1947 Chateau d'Yquem that cost thousands of dollars per bottle, and exotic foods flown in from around the world. But the detail that would capture the public's imagination and symbolize corporate excess was that infamous ice sculpture, a life-sized replica of Michelangelo's David that had been modified to dispense premium vodka from its anatomical region, creating a spectacle that guests would never forget and prosecutors would use as Exhibit A in demonstrating Kozlowski's abuse of shareholder funds. What made this party particularly egregious wasn't just its cost or its outrageous elements, it was how Kozlowski funded it and how he tried to justify it as a legitimate business expense. Of the $2 million total cost, Kozlowski charged $1.1 million directly to Tyco International, claiming the event was a business meeting that deserved corporate funding because several Tyco board members and business associates attended. The remaining $900,000 came from a special bonus that Kozlowski awarded himself through Tyco's employee loan program, which he had been using as his personal piggy bank for years. Internal Tyco documents later revealed that Kozlowski had classified the party expenses under various corporate categories, including $700,000 for consultancy services, $200,000 for travel and entertainment, and $100,000 for executive compensation, demonstrating the creative accounting that allowed him to hide personal expenses within the company's massive budget. The party was originally kept secret from shareholders and most Tyco employees, only coming to light during the federal investigation that would eventually topple Kozlowski's empire. Even more audaciously, Kozlowski attempted to claim tax deductions for the party expenses, arguing to investigators that the presence of Tyco board members made it a deductible business meeting, a claim that federal prosecutors would later use to demonstrate his pattern of treating corporate funds as his personal wealth. The birthday party was just the tip of the iceberg in what prosecutors would later describe as one of the largest corporate looting schemes in American history. Between 1996 and 2002, Kozlowski and his chief financial officer, Mark Swartz, systematically stole over $600 million from Tyco International through unauthorized bonuses, fraudulent stock sales, and personal use of company funds. Kozlowski's personal spending reached breathtaking levels, including $15,000 for an umbrella stand, $6,000 for a shower curtain, and $30 million for a Fifth Avenue apartment that he furnished entirely at company expense. He purchased a $13.5 million estate in Nantucket, a $7 million Park Avenue co-op for his ex-wife, and a $16.8 million estate in Florida, all funded through unauthorized company loans that he never intended to repay. Kozlowski also used Tyco funds to purchase expensive artwork, including paintings by Monet and Renoir, that he claimed were for corporate offices but actually hung in his personal residences. The executive loan program, which was originally designed to help executives purchase Tyco stock, became Kozlowski's personal financing mechanism, with him borrowing over $270 million that he used for personal investments, real estate purchases, and lifestyle expenses. Most egregiously, when Tyco's stock price began falling in 2002, Kozlowski sold millions of dollars worth of his personal Tyco shares, while publicly reassuring investors that the company's finances were solid, a classic case of insider trading that would add securities fraud to his growing list of federal charges. The unraveling began not with the birthday party, but with a bizarre incident involving a $13,000 shower curtain and New York State sales tax. In May 2002, Manhattan District Attorney Robert Morgenthau charged Kozlowski with evading over $1 million in New York State sales taxes on expensive artwork he had purchased for his Manhattan apartment. The investigation revealed that Kozlowski had arranged to have empty shipping boxes sent to New Hampshire, where Tyco was headquartered, to avoid New York's 8% sales tax on luxury items including paintings, furniture, and that now famous shower curtain. This seemingly minor tax evasion case opened the floodgates for a much larger federal investigation into Kozlowski's use of corporate funds. As FBI agents and SEC investigators dug deeper into Tyco's financial records, they discovered the elaborate scheme of unauthorized bonuses, fraudulent loans, and personal expenses charged to the company. The birthday party video, which had been professionally filmed and preserved in Tyco's corporate files, became smoking gun evidence of Kozlowski's mindset and his belief that company money was his to spend as he pleased. Tyco's board of directors, many of whom had attended the infamous party, quickly distanced themselves from Kozlowski and demanded his resignation in June 2002, just as the federal investigation was expanding beyond tax evasion into securities fraud, grand larceny, and conspiracy. The legal proceedings against Kozlowski became a media circus that captivated the American public and symbolized the corporate greed that had infected American business in the early 2000s. The first trial in 2003 ended in a mistrial after a juror received threatening phone calls and letters, but not before prosecutors had presented devastating evidence, including the party video, financial records showing hundreds of unauthorized transactions, and testimony from Tyco employees who described Kozlowski's imperial management style and his treatment of corporate funds as personal wealth. The retrial in 2005 featured weeks of testimony about Kozlowski's extravagant lifestyle, with prosecutors methodically documenting every unauthorized purchase, every fraudulent loan, and every instance where he had used Tyco money for personal benefit. Defense attorneys argued that Kozlowski's compensation had been approved by Tyco's board of directors and that his spending, while extravagant, was within the bounds of his employment agreement. But the prosecution's case was overwhelming. The birthday party video was played repeatedly in court, with prosecutors using it to demonstrate Kozlowski's mindset and his casual attitude towards spending other people's money. After deliberating for 11 days, the jury found Kozlowski guilty on 22 of 23 counts, including grand larceny, conspiracy, securities fraud, and falsifying business records. The conviction carried a sentence of 8 1/3 to 25 years in state prison, along with $167 million in restitution and fines, making it one of the harshest sentences ever imposed on a corporate executive. The Kozlowski scandal had devastating consequences for Tyco International and its shareholders, with the company's stock price falling from over $60 per share in early 2002 to under $10 by the end of that year, wiping out over $90 billion in shareholder value. The company was forced to restate years of financial results, revealing that Kozlowski and his associates had inflated revenues through aggressive accounting practices and hidden millions of dollars in unauthorized executive compensation. Tyco's credit rating was downgraded to junk status, making it difficult for the company to finance operations and complete the acquisitions that had fueled its growth under Kozlowski's leadership. The scandal also triggered dozens of shareholder lawsuits and SEC enforcement actions, ultimately costing Tyco over $3 billion in legal settlements, regulatory fines, and remediation costs. New CEO Edward Breen was brought in to clean up the mess, eventually splitting Tyco into 3 separate companies and implementing strict corporate governance reforms designed to prevent future executive misconduct. The Kozlowski case became a textbook example of corporate governance failure, demonstrating how ineffective board oversight and weak internal controls can enable executive misconduct on a massive scale, and leading to new regulations requiring companies to strengthen their oversight of executive compensation and expense reimbursement. Dennis Kozlowski served 6.5 years in prison before being released on parole in 2013, a significantly reduced sentence that reflected his cooperation with authorities and his payment of restitution to Tyco shareholders. During his incarceration at the Mid-State Correctional Facility in upstate New York, Kozlowski worked in the prison law library and participated in educational programs, maintaining a relatively low profile compared to his years as a high-flying corporate executive. Upon his release, he moved to a halfway house in New York City before eventually settling in a modest apartment, a far cry from the luxury penthouses and estates he had owned during his Tyco years. In rare interviews, Kozlowski has expressed remorse for his actions while maintaining that he believed his compensation and expenses were properly authorized by Tyco's board of directors, though he acknowledged that his lifestyle had become excessive and his judgment had been clouded by success and wealth. The infamous birthday party continues to serve as a symbol of corporate excess and executive entitlement, featured in business school case studies and corporate governance training programs as an example of how quickly corporate success can turn into personal hubris and criminal behavior. Mark Swartz, Kozlowski's co-conspirator and Tyco's former CFO, was also convicted on similar charges and served a similar prison sentence, and both men remain barred from serving as officers or directors of publicly traded companies. The legacy of Dennis Kozlowski's $2 million birthday party extends far beyond one executive's fall from grace, serving as a cautionary tale about corporate governance, executive compensation, and the dangerous intersection of personal wealth and corporate power. The scandal helped fuel public outrage about corporate excess that led to the passage of the Sarbanes-Oxley Act in 2002, which strengthened corporate governance requirements and increased penalties for executive misconduct, though critics argue that executive compensation has continued to reach astronomical levels despite increased regulation. The case also highlighted the importance of independent board oversight and the need for robust internal controls to prevent executives from treating corporate funds as personal piggy banks, lessons that remain relevant as corporate scandals continue to emerge in various industries. Business schools now use the Kozlowski case as a prime example of how personal ethics and corporate culture can deteriorate when success breeds entitlement and oversight mechanisms fail to function effectively. The vodka dispensing David sculpture has become an enduring symbol of corporate greed, referenced in countless articles, books, and documentaries about corporate crime and executive excess. Perhaps most importantly, the Kozlowski scandal demonstrated that no executive, regardless of their track record of success or their status in the business community, is above the law when it comes to stealing from shareholders and abusing the public trust that comes with corporate leadership, a lesson that continues to resonate in an era of ongoing corporate scandals and executive accountability.